year.
That's why we put the extra money in, Mr.
No. The extra money went in for bodies, and whistleblowers acknowledged that standards were being lowered to bring in new agents. The money is not the issue here. It is how the money is spent.
This hearing goes off the rails fast. Democrats roll in waving debt charts and doom forecasts. Then the numbers come back at them, hard. The deficit accusations flip, the IRS excuses collapse, and suddenly the past tax votes are back on trial. If you're new here, consider subscribing. This is where accountability actually happens.
Thank you, Chairman. So maybe we could stick to a couple of facts here, as previously discussed, and that is that if you made $1 million last year, you're going to get about $84,000 in tax relief with this bill. If you made under $50,000, you are likely to get about $1 a day. The President said that we'd have 90 trade agreements in 90 days. We're 89 short because of the manner in which some of these allies have been offended. We want trade balance for sure, but we also want to make sure that it's done in a manner that will last, not subject to the whims of the administration. I understand, Mr. Secretary, that you don't agree with some of the economic forecasts that have been projected as it relates to the big, beautiful bill. So Penn Wharton says this bill will add trillions of dollars to the national debt. The Yale Budget Lab says this will add trillions of dollars to the national debt. Well, we're 0 for 2. But how about Maya McGinnis? Not exactly known for their socialist leanings. They say this will add trillions of dollars to the national debt. Well, let's go to the Tax Foundation, hardly a left-leaning political organization. They say this will add trillions of dollars to the national debt because the money's going to be borrowed. Here, facts should matter. The advice of experts should matter. We have seen the bond market's reaction to some of these proposals. They're jittery. But you know what? In this committee, we listen. The administration is putting its head in the sand on this debt issue. The facts are going to be hard to escape. So let me turn to the impact of budget reconciliation as it relates to health care. In addition to adding trillions to the U.S. debt, the bill will cause 16 million Americans to lose part or all of their health insurance, according to CBO. We know what the consequence will be of losing health insurance for the American family. More visits to the emergency room, more postponed treatments, more bankruptcies that will come because of it. The problems that people have with health insurance only mean that later on the problems pile up. Bad health, the challenge that is now going to occur for our rural hospitals, surely many of which will be forced to close. Cutting more than $1.5 trillion from Medicaid, Medicare, and the Affordable Care Act certainly will mean job losses. No industry can sustain $1.5 trillion in cuts while we borrow money for a big tax cut that, despite what has been said here today, still favors people overwhelmingly at the top. Let me say, in regard to the testimony, Mr. Secretary, that you've offered, there's another key consideration here. You're suggesting that the improvements at the IRS have all taken place in the last 6 months? It's because of what we did with the Inflation Reduction Act. That's why the improvements have taken place, the technological upgrades that have taken place as well. We have a pretty good understanding of this. We want to use artificial intelligence for better tax collections. But all of this just happened in the last 6 months. That's our understanding based upon the testimony. The Commonwealth Fund, cuts to Medicaid and SNAP are going to lead to the loss of over 1 million jobs. The American Hospital Association estimates that tens of thousands of hospital jobs will be lost as a result of these cuts. Furthermore, a professor at Yale has said that this will conservatively cause tens of thousands of unnecessary deaths. Worse health care, job losses, more borrowed money. The American people deserve considerably better than what we're being told. But let me offer this challenge, Mr. Secretary. We would be prepared on the minority side to work with the administration and direct tax relief back to people under $400,000 of joint income, as opposed to the suggestion that is being offered here today. And if you disagree with the number that I offered about tax relief for somebody who made $1 million last year, let me give you the last 30 seconds to speak to that.
The Representative Neal, I have great respect for you. We've had good conversations, but respectfully, if I weigh 1,000 pounds and you weigh 50, and I gain 10 pounds, or I gain 10%, I have gained 100,000. That during President Trump's first tax cuts, the share of taxes paid by the high end of taxpayers, increased by more than 7%. And I'm sorry, I chuckled when you talked about the IT at the IRS. The program is 35 years behind schedule. 35 years. And is wasting $2 billion a year.
That's why we put the extra money in, Mr. Secretary.
No. The extra money went in for bodies, and whistleblowers acknowledged that standards were being lowered to bring in new agents. The money is not the issue here. It is how the money is spent.
That's exactly right. We agree on that, how the money is spent. And the last point that I would make...
It has been spent poorly.
Let me make this last point, Mr. Secretary. Do you agree with the idea that in 2017, that the federal government, emanating from this committee, borrowed $2.3 trillion for that tax cut?
What I believe is that everyone on the Democratic side voted for the biggest blowout for the deficit in history, and that we are suffering from that. This past tax year, we will have between a 6.5 and 6.7% deficit, so I find it very difficult to be lectured to by people who created the largest deficit in history when we were not at war and not in a recession.
So I negotiated with Secretary Mnuchin the pandemic relief bill. If that's the reference point, that's where overwhelmingly the money went. That was not a bad infusion of money. It worked. The Economist magazine and the Financial Times said in January the American economy was the envy of the world. I yield back my time, Mr. Chairman.
Well, the spending was not the envy of the world.
The exchange opens with Democrats claiming the bill hands massive tax relief to the wealthy while adding trillions to the debt. They cite Wharton, Yale, and the Tax Foundation, warning the administration is burying its head in the sand. The argument quickly shifts to health care. Claims that millions could lose coverage, hospitals could close, and jobs could disappear under proposed cuts. But then the secretary fires back. He dismantles the framing with a basic reality check. Percentages matter. When high earners pay a larger share overall, even small percentage changes look big in raw dollars. Yet the tax burden at the top actually increased after the Trump tax cuts. That's not rhetoric. That's math. Then comes the IRS debate. And this is where it gets exposed. Democrats credit recent improvements to new spending. The secretary laughs it off. The IRS modernization program, 35 years behind schedule, burning billions annually. The issue was never money. It was mismanagement. More bodies didn't fix a broken system. Spending smarter would have. Next, the deficit lecture collapses. The secretary reminds a room who voted for the largest peacetime deficit blowout in U.S. history. Trillions borrowed. No war. No recession. And now the same people are pointing fingers. When pandemic spending is raised, the response is surgical. That money kept the economy alive, and it worked. Even international outlets called the U.S. economy the envy of the world. You can argue policy, but you can't erase results. By the end, the contrast is clear. One side selling fear with recycled talking points, the other forcing the record into the open. This wasn't about forecasts. It was about responsibility. And Democrats didn't like where the facts landed, like the video. Subscribe if you value receipts over rhetoric, and share this so others can see what really happened in that room.